I'm live. What's good, y'all? I'm just waiting on a couple more people to get here before I get started. Demario, what's good, man? It looked like you watching out there. I want to let you know condolences on the things that you recently went through. And I'm sorry about that, man. Sorry for your loss. But I'm also proud of you, though. It looked like you're really doing your thing out there in Atlanta, it looks like. That's what's up. And Big Bro, what's up? What's good, Jason? You all right? Yeah, man. In a couple minutes, I'm going to get started, regardless of who's in the building. All right, what I'm doing right now is going through my friends list, inviting people on my friends list. It's a lot of friends, but I'm pretty much clicking invite on everybody. So give me a second. Give me a second, y'all, while I send out these invites. I'm simply going down my friends list. I got a few more friends than I thought I had on here, but apparently this is the only way people gonna tune in is if I send an invite. So give me 1 second. All right, let me see. We got about 11 people here. I want to get about 20 people here before we get started. So just give me a second. I'm getting ready to, because right now I'm going down my friends list. How you doing, Ma? Everybody that's clicking invite, I appreciate you tuning in. It's really about to be a serious conversation. I'm not playing no games. I'm not playing any games. Neither am I holding any punches. I just want to take some time out to finish inviting as many people as I can on my friends list. So give me 1 second. If you are watching right now, I want you to do something, wave or drop a letter in the comment box or something like that, because it says only 6 people are watching, but it looks like according to the people that says is watching that at least 15 people is watching. So if you can, send me an indication, let me know that you're watching. Hi, Sharita. What's up, Clay? My guy Angelo, what's up? Thank you. Cordell, what's up? Please bear with me, guys. Just like any other time you go to the movies, you got to watch the opening credits. That's true. You can't repost a video. All right, but I want some people to be here to see me say this live. At the end of the day, I sent out about 30 or 40 invites just now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. All right. The reason why I'm doing this live at this particular time, is because, how you doing, Uncle Tremaine? Is because I wanted to be able to come across tastefully and as professionally as possible. That being said, some political correctness is off the table because this is my platform. Okay? This dialogue or monologue, if you will, is going to it could create separation between me and some people, because at the end of the day, as I've said over my Facebook statuses before, anybody that's a part of my Facebook family is somebody who I know directly. We met somewhere along the way on my journey, and that's why you're my Facebook friend. So any other people who tune in today are people who could also quite possibly call me this evening, and I'll be open to that, as well as to you dropping a comment in the comment section. I hope that y'all can stay along for this ride as well. All right, as I've been waiting to say what I have to say as professionally and as tastefully as possible, I have been disappointed with people making comments like, we don't have any leaders. There are no leaders in our community. There are no leaders in my family. I've talked to many people who say on the phone with me, there are no leaders in my family. I've had conversations with people at different schools, in different organizations that I belong to, where people say there are no leaders amongst me. And they look at me in the face saying there are no leaders around me. So I have a problem with that. Now, I've been waiting to say how I felt for a long time. There's a lot of work that went into me getting here, okay? I don't want to jump my own gun, but I must state that this logo that you see behind me is not some black thing with a blackface in his mouth. That's not what it is. This logo represents 12 articles that were written and published in Cleveland and a few other places where I decided to write articles when no one else was listening to me. So this character right here is a symbol of my mind space, and it's a symbol of your mind space. This character is a representation of mind space. When you close your eyes, that black space is what this character represents. Inside of that black space is your life energy, which you can use to manifest to anything that you want to see in the world. I realize that people don't want to see you, nor listen to you, nor pay attention to you, which is ironic because I'm going live in 2019. But what I've learned is that people don't really want to listen to too much of what you have to say, whether it's true or not, whether it resonates or not. We're in a day and age where even a hip hop song doesn't need to be longer than 3 minutes, because people's attention span is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. That does not mean that when a leader presents himself that his case is going to be open and closed for 3 minutes. Okay? The truth is that there are some adaptations that we need to make in order to, number one, accept the truth, and number two, change individually and as a community. So what I did along my journey, whether I was right, wrong, or indifferent at that particular time, I created a symbol that subliminally teaches that all the power in the world is inside of you. I created a symbol that subliminally lets you know that everything that's great about the world is inside of your mind space. Period. Why did I do that? Because if I'm standing in front of you and I'm saying success is a choice, some people will like it. A lot of people will think that that's corny. If I'm in your vicinity and I'm saying that if you foster youth, you can foster success, some people will resonate with it. Other people will think that it's corny. If I am on your street corner saying, be the best that you can be, some people might like it. Some people will say that's corny. In addition to that, a lot of people say, who are you? And what are you even talking about? What makes you qualified to discuss motivating me, motivating other people in our community? Who are you? That's what I found out, is that the same people who say, who are the leaders in our community? We don't have any leaders in our community, are the same people who will look you, aka a young person, BKA somebody younger than them, or even just somebody who's not them themselves, and say, what gives you the right? What gives you the authority? Who do you think you are? So to avoid being called arrogant, to avoid being called conceited, because those things hurt my feelings. I come from very humble beginnings, and I'm about to get into that. I come from very humble beginnings, and I'm about to get into that. But this logo represents the most excellent compliment that you could give to the person next to you. Again, that is not a mouth. That is not a mouth. That is black mind space made transparent so that it can be known that everything in the world is inside of you. And if you use what's inside of you, then you can create what you want to see in the world. That also being said, I see a big problem in our living environment that stems from the foster care system. I knew nothing about this problem before I went into foster care. But when I got into foster care, I realized a humongous problem that I've taken it upon myself to address. So now, when you say, what gives you, Cedric, the motivation, the impetus, the legs, the authority to talk like this? It's not just because I think I can open my mouth and say something that will make the next person get up and do something. It's because while I was in foster care, I witnessed hundreds of people being abused mentally, physically, verbally, subliminally, to the extent that they had low self-esteem. They had low confidence. Nobody was telling them to have a good day. Nobody was telling them that they could be somebody. Nobody was giving them a kiss and a hug on a regular basis. Y'all can tell me out there if I'm too loud or if the volume is right, because I never did this before. So y'all have to let me know out there. If I'm turning you off, stay tuned. If you choose to take distance from me, then I appreciate you doing it sooner rather than later, because that's what this live is about. Creating distance so that I can do what it is that I really set out to do. I'm gonna take a couple seconds, invite some more people. Take a couple seconds to invite some more people on my friends list. So give me a second, because I can't get too excited and end up going off in a direction that I don't want to go off on, because I can talk for days. I've just been waiting patiently for an opportunity to do it tastefully. Give me 1 second.
Mommy told me to get the remote.
All right, anyways, back to it. Yeah, anybody who's staying here for the ride, I really appreciate it. Anybody that's staying here for the ride, I really appreciate it. Certain parts of this live, I don't know when they're going to cut me off and all of that, but I will be taking a few seconds here or there to gather my composure, because this is a very emotional commentary for me, even though I'm being as logical as possible. So anyways, let me start from the beginning. Okay? My grandmother was my first teacher. When I look back on my life, my grandmother was the first person that I remember teaching me things. And she taught me things with an iron fist. Meaning, when I was not doing what she told me to do, there were physical repercussions, okay? And my grandmother taught me to be excellent. And if you're not excellent, then you pretty much deserve a butt whooping if you're not being excellent, okay? Now, at the same time that my grandmother was teaching me to be excellent, I'm going to give you some examples of what I'm talking about. My grandmother would have her own time, which would be watching soap operas, drinking E&J, smoking cigarettes, some weed, having some friends over, and having a good time every single day. Every single day. My grandmother spent time drinking, smoking, living her life, being charismatic, enjoying her neighbors, sending me to the store when I was 4 years old, sending me to the store when I was 4 years old for Benson and Hedges cigarettes and Genesee beer. When I was 4 years old, I was walking to the store to get beer and cigarettes, right? But every single night, my grandmother made sure that we had a square meal. There was never a night, somebody said I just froze, but I'm going to slow down for a minute. Am I back regular? I'm going to take some time to invite some more people since I just froze. Give me a second. All right, I'm back. Okay, all right, I'm back. So, like I said, at 4 years old, I was going to the store for beer and cigarettes. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that to say that I was being mistreated in any type of way. I'm saying that to say that my eyes were being opened to the real world and what was happening in my particular part of the real world. Okay? Like I said, my grandmother was my first teacher. Regardless of the things that she did in her social life, every single day I was cooked a square meal. Every single day I was cooked a square meal. My homework was done. My brothers and sisters, not my brothers, but my sisters, we all ate every day. Okay? In the morning, my grandmother would limp across the floor. She had broke her ankle a couple times growing up, but she would limp across the floor and she would iron my clothes right in front of me, telling me, this is how you iron your clothes. After she ironed my clothes, she would make me put those clothes on in order. Couldn't just throw my clothes on any old type of way. Got to put my underclothes on first, then put my shirt on, then put my pants on, and then use a shoehorn to put on my shoes. If I did that out of order, I got a butt whooping. So I'm saying this to say that my grandmother was teaching me according to a phrase that had been given to her, which is, do as I say, not as I do. My grandmother was teaching me to do as she said, not as she did. So I got an image in my mind that in order to grow up, you have to do the right thing. And at least for the next, whatever foreseeable future, if you don't do the right thing, you're going to get your butt whooped. And I don't mean in a nice type of way. I'm talking about in an old-fashioned style way. So whether it be her bare hand, a belt, a cord, whatever it was, with the exception of me getting hit in the face or something like that, get a butt whooping for not doing the right thing. So in other words, I was scared straight. I was on an honor roll. Now I'm talking about my life between the ages of 3 to 4, which is where I start remembering at the age of 4, to 6. I was on the honor roll. I was on the merit roll, citizenship, perfect attendance. I was attendance runner in the school. I was given the responsibility of collecting all the attendance folders in the whole school. This is me in preschool going into kindergarten, walking around the whole school before class started because my mind was open enough to be handed that type of a responsibility. Because when I'm at home, I'm not being coddled in any type of way. My grandmother loved me to death. At night, you had to be in the bed at 8:30. At 8:45, my grandmother would come upstairs with the belt. If you was not asleep by 9 o'clock, you get your butt whooped. Some people might be able to relate. Some people might not be able to relate. I'm going somewhere with this. When my grandmother come upstairs at 9 o'clock, you not asleep, you get your butt whooped. Several of those nights, my grandmother would sit on the bed if I wasn't sleeping instead of whooping my butt, and she would talk to me about life. She would tell me what was going on in life. She would tell me how we was behind on the rent. She would tell me how all of my uncles was in jail, so it really was no man of the house. She would tell me how she really wished that our whole family would be together, doing the right thing, acting correctly. She would tell me this. She would tell me how depressed she was because she felt like it was just her in this house, in the hood, on east side of Cleveland, and that I was the man of the house. At 5 years old, I was the man of the house. That is the way that it was. One night, I'll never forget, I had scarlet fever. Keep in mind, y'all, I'm going somewhere with this. I'm not about to just be talking about my life story, and that's what you got to sit along for. I'm going somewhere with this. Reason I'm going somewhere with this is because people say out of their mouths, there is no leader. There haven't been no leader in years. Is no leader coming. Our young people is nothing. People who's 30 years old is nothing. And it's particularly if you're not someone who's getting a degree right now, you're not taking a picture with a degree right now, you're not doing anything. So that's the gap that I stand in. I'm someone without any of what you thought that I needed to get to where I am today. Period. My grandmother wanted everybody, and drop comments and stuff like that and at the bottom of the screen so I could tell the people that's paying attention. My grandmother was showing me the real world as best as she could. She was also letting me know about her frustrations. I was scared straight about what was right and what was wrong. This didn't make me perfect. Okay? I have to say that. This didn't make me perfect. Nowhere along this journey have I ever been born perfect. Was I ever perfect? I want to be clear about that too. Because understand that when you're talking to the public, sometimes people can misconstrue what you're saying for you saying that you're perfect. It's not what I'm saying. Okay, but when I was about 6 years old, my mother had got out of jail. My mother came across town and she got into an argument with my grandmother over who I really should be staying with. Now my mother had been in a halfway house. She had gotten out of jail, and at this time she had my 2 younger brothers. Now me and my 2 younger sisters was living with my grandmother. During that time, my mother had my 2 younger brothers. So now fast forward, when my mother came to see us, she was telling my grandmother that it was time for us to come live with her. So because my grandmother was drinking, my grandmother was partying, and my grandmother was doing her thing. Nobody knows except for me, my 2 sisters, and maybe some other neighbors that my grandmother was schooling us on life every single day. So my grandmother and my mother, they almost got into a physical fight. My mother started, yelling and screaming. My mother started throwing her money out on the floor, proving that she was capable of taking us with her at that time. And so my mother told us to pack all of our clothes up and to walk out of the house, to leave our grandmother, leave her just like that, just bounce up out of the house. And my mother, who none of you know, most of you don't know, my mother was somebody who was could be a volatile person. When she was angry, she would be violent if she didn't get what she was asking for, if she felt like she was right. And so my mother was willing to slap my grandmother and willing to fight my grandmother in order to take us out of the house that night. So that night, me and my 2 sisters moved with my mother overnight out of nowhere. Okay? And I'm going somewhere with all of this, guys. We moved with my mother. We moved across town, still on the east side of Cleveland, with my mother. When we moved with my mother had a nice apartment. It was better than our apartment. And I thought that things were just much better here where my mother was living at. Now, we were still in the hood. We were just in a different section of the hood. Okay? And it seemed like my mother had things in order. She had a job. She had a partner. She was dating a girl, which was different. It was different for me. See, my grandmother didn't even have a boyfriend. She wasn't really dating somebody that I could say, oh, this is my grandmother and this is her significant other. So to go from that to my mother with a girlfriend and two younger brothers that I had never lived with before, it was a new experience. But remember, I had been rigidly trained about doing the right thing or getting my butt whooped. So here I am with my mom, and I'm like doing the best that I can at everything. And my mother started telling me to knock it off. My mother started telling me, listen, you're gonna need to start getting into a few fights in school. Hold on, let me invite a few more people. All right. So my mother started telling me that that pretty much I need to get more active in terms of being in the streets, being more active. Not trying to be somebody that does everything right. You need to be somebody who's a little bit rough around the edges. Or now, the same way that your grandmother was telling you, do the right thing or I'm gonna whoop your butt. My mother started telling me, do the wrong thing. My mother started telling me, do the wrong thing every now and then or I'm gonna whoop your butt. Now, I'm trying not to curse on this live because number one, people who know me in different capacities, they don't know me to be someone who curses, and I also don't want to offend the internet itself by being too frank. But trust and believe, I'm being as truthful as possible in what I'm saying. My mother started telling me, I'm doing well. Please stay along for the story. I'm going somewhere with this. Oh yeah, we got a few people that just tuned in. I'm going somewhere with all of this. I'm not just waxing poetic or venting live on Facebook. That's not what this is. This is a call to action from myself to you, and that's where we're getting to. In any event, my mother started telling me you need to start doing the wrong thing a little bit because that's what I want to see you doing. You got the square philosophy down pat. Now, I need to see you get into a few fights. I need to see you do some mischief, and you need to get out the house. My mother would literally tell me, yo, when you get home, get out the house. You know what I'm saying? Get out the house. You're not going to be around here acting like either Mr. Perfect or acting like you don't do nothing wrong. Go outside and mess up. That's what my mother was teaching me. Okay? I'm going to give you a brief story. All right. One time I had lost my house keys. Now, mind you, this is a new chapter in my life. I'm living with my mom, my biological mom for the first time. All 5 of my brothers and sisters at the first time. I'm the oldest. My eyes is woke. I've been to the store for beer and cigarettes. I've been outside down the street by myself. I've seen the happenings on in the neighborhood while walking down the street by myself. I'm not new to what's happening outside versus what's happening in the house. My mother is telling me to go outside and be more and be a little bit more mannish in a bad type of way. So I'm getting conflicted messages. Now, I lost my house keys one time, and I told my mother, I said, Mom, I lost my house keys. She said, how did you lose your house keys? And I just didn't want to be so simple as to say I had misplaced them because I just didn't want to get slapped for no reason. So I told my mother that somebody had took them from me. She said, whoever took your keys, you need to go to school tomorrow and beat them up and take your keys. So now I had been with my mom for like probably 5 or 6 months by now, and I'm thinking, you know, my mom been telling me that, you know, I need to get into more fights and stuff like that. So this is the perfect opportunity for me to go get into a fight. She told me, listen, you beat the dude up who got your keys, take your keys back, and I'm going to go up to the school and I'm going to back you. You're not going to be in trouble. Now, this is me lying, and this is me doing what my mother said at the same time, because I know that I'm getting ready to start a fight. So I went to school the next day, and at the end of the day, I waited all the way to the end of the day, about 10 minutes before school let out, and I walked up on this kid who had been picking with me, but that doesn't make me right, and I beat him up. I beat this kid up. I beat the brakes off of him. And you know, I got suspended, and when I came home, how you doing, Ty? You know, I'm going in right now, but please stay along for the ride. I beat the kid up. I went home, and then I found my keys in my drawer after my mom had got done congratulating me. And I told my mom that I had got my keys back from the guy. She was so proud of me and so happy for me because I did something that was I guess I did some tough guy stuff. That's what my mom wanted to see me doing, right? So long story short, so now, boom, I start going outside. I start, you know, hanging out with different people. These people would, you know, go down to the creek, catch snakes, catch frogs, go down to the park, hang out. We started a little street gang. We was called the 93rd Soldiers. 93rd is a big street in Cleveland, Ohio, where you know, it's just a big street. It's called 93rd. We lived on 93rd and Etna, and I was a part of what was called the 93rd Soldiers. Now, at this time, I'm just a kid. I'm probably I'm 8 years old because I moved with my mom when I'm 7. Now I'm a year in. I'm going outside every day like my mom told me to. Riding bikes, got my brothers and sisters ride with me on the handlebars, trying to beat the street light homes and stuff like this. Now, I'm also at this time cognitive of what's happening around me because my grandmother, the old days, that's right. My grandmother used to sit down with me and tell me about real life. She used to tell me, listen, people don't mess with me when I walk down the street, but in my heart, in my soul, I have problems. So I knew to watch out for grown-ups with problems because somebody who I thought was a soldier, a G, had problems. She cried about those problems to me when I was 5 years old. So even though my mother's telling me to do what she's telling me to do, I'm paying attention to her. And eventually, her partner left her. My mom was by herself. Okay? When my mom's partner left her, it was her by herself. When my mom got by herself, she took on 2 jobs. When she took on 2 jobs, what's up, Uncle James? When my mom took on 2 jobs, that's when she really started to lose patience about, you know, giving us directions in the house and us not following them. I saw her arguing with the landlord. The landlord was basically saying that we was behind on rent and that we was gonna have to move out. My mom was telling him that, you know, he knows that she got 5 kids and she by herself and that she needed more time. So long story short, my mom started unraveling. At this time, we was going to church every Sunday. We was like a family in a church that the whole church knew. My mother would be in there, would be in church and all this and that, right? So we was strong members of the church at the same time, and we basically about to get kicked out. We got kicked out. When we got kicked out, we moved right next door to a woman named Miss White. Miss White was a church-going lady. Let us live with her for, we stayed with Miss White for about 2 months until basically what was happening was Miss White was one of those great old-fashioned grandmothers that used to have her whole family come over to her house every morning. She used to cook breakfast for her family every morning. They used to come from across town and eat breakfast at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And at 6 o'clock in the morning, me and my brothers and sisters would be trying to wake up, you know, take baths and get ready to leave. So it became kind of crowded. So we had to leave. You know, we outwere our welcome just because of the nature of things. So we ended up leaving from there. And my mother, she dropped us off at these people's house. Their last name was Green. We dropped us off at the Green family house. And the Green family was supposed to be watching us for a few hours. And my mom said, you know, I'll be back tonight. My mom didn't get back to like 12 o'clock that night. Didn't come back to like 12 o'clock that night. Apparently she had, you know, been out drinking or something like that. I really can't say what she was doing because I was too young. But she didn't meet her promise of coming back in a couple hours. So we left there hastily. My mother getting ready to fight in the middle of the street. And we went around the corner to one of her other friends' house on a street called Way. Now, if you do your research, Way is only like 2 or 3 streets over from Etna. We went to this friend's house over on Way, and our mother abandoned us there for 2 days. At the end of the 2 days, the woman was getting ready to kick us out on the street until she got in touch with my mother, told her, listen, I'm about to kick your kids out on the street. And my mother finally came back. When my mother came back, she had talked to one of the members of the church. The member of the church, his name was Brother Greg. Brother Greg told her, if you ever need a place to stay with your children, you can bring them to my house. This is what happened. At this time, I am 6, 7 years old. So now I'm 7 years old. We living at Brother Greg's house. Brother Greg is a church-going man, and Brother Greg is telling us that pretty much is no reason not to smile in life. I used to ask Brother Greg, yo, why you always smiling? Why you always smiling, Brother Greg? He was like, it's no reason not to smile. You know, always smile. He was a church-going man, and I was like, wow, you know, this guy's optimistic. He got 5 people just surprised living in this house, and he's able to deal with it gracefully. You know what I'm saying? Brother Greg also was somebody who led with an iron fist. Wasn't listening in school, wasn't listening outside, give you a good old-fashioned butt whooping. So here I am for the first time really having a man that lives where I live who's teaching me according to how a man thinks day in and day out. Now, I know some other people here that know me from when I was real young. I'm not talking about somebody like a Sanford or a Cornell, somebody that was there when I was young, but they wasn't actually living in my house every single day. This is the first time me having a man living in my house every single day, telling me about what I should and should not be doing. Y'all give me a second. I see the numbers is dropping. I'm going to try to invite a couple more people. Please remember, I'm going somewhere with all of this. Give me 1 second. All right, so tell me how y'all feeling out there. Is this interesting? Am I boring you? Am I being too loud? Am I too intense? What's going on? Should I keep going the way that I was going, or what's going on out there? What are y'all thinking right now? Go ahead. All right. Okay. So, like I was saying, all right. Brother Greg had a friend. His name was Henry. Henry told my mother that he had a place where we could stay. All right. Henry told my mother that he had a place that we could stay. It was around Halloween time. It's ironic because it's around Halloween time right now. Henry told my mother that he had a place for us to stay. Now, my mother had been doing her best, whether she was drinking, drugging, smoking, being lost, whatever. My mother was doing her best to buy supplies for this new house. We had toilet tissue, we had school supplies, we had clothes, we had folders, we had knickknacks, essentially, right? So when Henry said he had a place for us to go, we all come home, and now we've been at Brother Greg's house for like 4 or 5 months. And oh yeah, during this time, my mother had disappeared. My mother had disappeared. Now, mind you, it's about October, and my mom disappeared right before Henry said he had a place for us to stay. My mom disappeared. She was gone for like 3 days, and Brother Greg told my mom when she called after about 2 or 3 days, and he said, listen, the holidays is here. You not here. You know what I'm saying? Where are you? You got children. You got 5 children and a baby. My little brother Lamar was a baby at this time. He telling her, you need to get home because your kids need you. It's the holidays. We don't know what happened to you. We don't know what's going on with you. When my mother came back, my mother said that she had been raped. My mother said that she had been raped. My mother said that she had been stranded. And Brother Greg told my mother, you could be stranded all you want, but if you care about your kids, you find your way back. My mother found her way back. When she came back, Henry told her that he had a place where we can live. And so Henry had this raggedy pickup truck, an old raggedy F-150. It's a lot of them in Cleveland. The whole bed of the truck hanging off. This is how Henry came around the corner in his truck telling us, put our stuff in the truck, and that he was going to take us to our new house. Mind you, if you just tuned in, I'm going somewhere with this. We put all our belongings on the back of the truck, and we all got into the bed of this, and we all got into the cabin of this truck. Henry took us about 6 miles in a different direction to 55th and Broadway. 55th and Broadway. Now, if you know anything about 55th and Broadway, it's a dirty area where all different types of people live. You got black people here, you got white people here, you got mixed people here, and you got some people that don't even talk to the people. You get some people over here that don't even talk to the people that live around there, because that's what type of neighborhood this is. Okay? This is not a safe neighborhood, is my point. Okay? But when we moved here, this marked the beginning of the end for my family, the way that we had knew it, which is living with my mother and surviving the best that we could. When we moved into this house, the lights didn't work. No, I take that back. When we first moved into the house, the lights was working, but the gas was off. The gas was off. There was no refrigerator. All we had was a microwave, the dishes that my mother had bought, and we had a table. But the table didn't have any chairs. So I'll never forget. We had linoleum was peeling up off the floor. There was roaches here. The basement was flooded. It was water. It was 3-4 feet of water in the basement. So we couldn't actually go in the basement. Upstairs, it was 5 bedrooms. No, it was 4 bedrooms upstairs. It was 1 bedroom downstairs. My mother's bedroom was downstairs. Me and my brothers and sisters, we took rooms upstairs. Everybody had their room upstairs. This particular night, the first night in this house, we sat on the floor and ate shake and bake and Kraft macaroni and cheese that my mother made out of the Kraft macaroni and cheese box and shake and bake. And then after that, for the next several days, my mother was making what was called a break for us, which is jailhouse food, which is concoctions that you put together from different ingredients. And people that go to jail, they know how to do this. My mother was feeding us breaks for about 3 or 4 days, and that's what we was eating on the floor. We was eating breaks, eating shake and bake and stuff like that. Now, this place was nothing like where we lived before. It was nothing like living with my grandmother. It was nothing like anything that we had experienced before, to be living in a house where eventually the lights was out. We had no lights. We had no gas. We had no refrigerator. I never remember sitting down eating dinner with my family at this house. We was at this house for approximately 2 years. Not one day did we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not one day. Not one day did we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner while we was living in this house. Every single day, my mother was coming up with a new scheme to figure out how to get us something to eat. In addition to that, my mother was willing to rob or steal in order to provide for herself and for us. Okay? I witnessed this. These are facts. So when we came home and we had to catch a school bus back and forth to the west side of Cleveland. I don't know why I'm giving such an in-depth story right now. I think it's because if I feel like if I'm going to tell it, I might as well tell it. We were riding the school bus at this time. We came home from the school bus one day, and we back and forth on the school bus, and it was just different indicators was happening that was letting the school know that everything wasn't okay with us. So for instance, one day I had forgot my homework on the school bus, and the school bus driver wouldn't let me get back on the school bus to get my homework, and she drove off. So the next day, when the school bus driver came back and pulled back up, my mother told the school bus driver, "Listen, I don't care if my son left a booger on this bus. If my son want to get the booger, you let my son get on this bus and get his booger off this bus, or I'm going to beat you up." This is what my mother told the lady in front of me. After that, the lady stopped picking us up correctly to go to school. We never had a good meetup like that again because my mother told the school bus driver that she was going to beat her up if I couldn't get what I needed off the school bus. So we back and forth to school on the west side of Cleveland. My mother is living her life. My mother is throwing a party. When we get out of school, sometimes my mother already throwing a party. We had a stereo, because you know stereos don't always need electricity because you can keep a battery in it. My mother had a stereo that never turned off. All day and night, the stereo was playing. All day and night, the stereo was playing. That was the soundtrack of our house, was this radio that never stopped playing. Okay, I come home, it's already a party going several times. My mother already drinking, she already smoking, kicking it. My job is to go do what I'm supposed to do. Do as I say, not as I do. Go do your homework. Go do what you're supposed to do. Now, what that entailed for me, knowing that, based on what my grandmother taught me, that my clothes is supposed to be ironed. Knowing that I'm supposed to be eating square meals every day. Knowing that I'm supposed to be making sure that my little brothers and sisters is straight or else I get my butt whooped. This is what my grandmother taught me. In this household environment, I took it upon myself to start going to the grocery store down the street, helping people with their bags for money. Then I would keep that money. Then I would go help people pump gas at the gas station for money. Then I would take that and then I would go down the street to the pizza shop and I would ask the man at the pizza shop if I could pass out his flyers around the neighborhood for some money. I would do all three of these things in the same day. A lot of those days I was not going to school because I would wake up, go to the grocery store, then I would go to the gas station, then I would go to this restaurant. The man would give me his flyers. At the end of the day, sometimes I would have $11, sometimes I would have $13. I would take that money and I would get food for my brothers and sisters. This happened on several occasions. I didn't do this every day. See, I don't want this to be taken out of context of me painting a picture that I'm Superman. No, I'm not trying to say that I'm Superman. I am painting a clear picture of how I got here today. I went and bought pizza rolls for my family, for my brothers and sisters, went and bought food for my brothers and sisters on several occasions. That's what I did. I also washed our clothes in cold water because when you don't have no gas, you don't have no heat, so your water is cold. Washed our clothes in cold water so that we could attempt to go to school. Didn't have an alarm clock. I had to hear the school bus coming down the street and run out the house. I had to hear the school bus coming down the street, wake my brothers and sisters up, get my stuff on, run downstairs out the house fast enough to catch the bus. But from the time that the bus hit this corner to the time that it stopped in front of my house and opened and closed the doors, I had to have me and my brothers and sisters out the house. This is what I was doing at 7 years old. So my life was a different reality. It was a different reality than some other people, quite naturally. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm getting ready to start trying to wrap this up because it's getting late. In this house, I saw my mother completely unravel. Okay? Now, I love my mother. My mother loved me. She loved my brothers and sisters. Everybody loved everybody. But that don't change the reality that our living condition was terrible. Okay? Sometimes friends of the family would come visit. Sometimes one of my aunties or even an uncle would come visit. Beyond that, the way that we was living, only I can tell you a clear story of what was happening. Everybody else was not family. They was a passerby. They not here to tune into this live to say, Cedric, you right. Okay? But now, my mother would do stuff like be hanging out with her friends and come up with ideas to make money. So one time, my mother, they went and broke into these people's house, stole a big screen TV, put it in our living room. So the one time we did get electricity back on, we had a big screen TV that they stole from the house behind us. Right now, we can't go to the neighborhood behind us because my mother and her boyfriend at the time went and stole the TV out of these people's house. My mother chilling with her friends, and one night says, you know what? Let's play cards. They get to playing cards. They get into an argument over the card game. The man pulled out a gun and put the gun to my mother's head. Now, on this particular night, my grandmother was living with us too. And me and all my brothers and sisters is watching this man with a gun to my mother's head in the middle of the street. My grandmother ran out the house, pushed him out the way, and told him to shoot her. Because if anybody's going to be getting shot, it will be her, not her daughter. Okay? In this very same house, we didn't, like I said, we didn't have a refrigerator. We had a garbage can filled with snow. We didn't have a refrigerator. We had a garbage can filled with snow. There's a lot of other details I could give you right now, but I'm trying to shorten the story because I need to start wrapping it up. On one particular night, my mother just decided to tell us what our dad's names was. She started to tell us what our dad's name was. Nowhere along our whole life story had our mother ever told us about our dad. We never talked about our dad. None of our dads was a part of the story, except for one of my sisters. I'm going to tell a brief story about that. But with the exception of my sister's dad coming into the picture for a few months, none of our dad was in the picture. We never talked about none of them. It was never a conversation until one day, for some reason, my mother just was like, you know what? I'm going to tell y'all your father's names. My mother told everybody their father's names and told them a brief story about their father. That was the night that I learned my father's name. I had never knew nothing about my father. I had never heard my father's name. I had never met him. Nothing at all. And I really never thought about it. I really never thought about who my dad was, because it's crazy how the way that you growing up just creates your reality and you just take it for what it is. Like I never even thought about having a dad at all until my mother brought it up to me like, yeah, you have a dad. This is his name. And I had a sister. I have a sister. Her father came to live with us for a little while. And we just had crazy nights in his house. Nights like this. I'm about to tell you. Give me 1 second. Matter of fact, let me put my phone on the charger real quick. I'm gonna be right back. In the meantime, either like this video or send me some type of indication that I'm doing all right. Because I'm really not trying to frustrate nobody. Like I said, I'm going somewhere with this. So give me 1 second. All right, y'all. So anyways, yeah. So we found out. Oh yeah. So my mother and my sister's dad. One night they just left. We was all asleep. When we woke up and looked out the window, all of the car windows was busted out. It was blood all over the seats, and we was scared to go downstairs to say hi to our mother because we like, yo, what happened? It was blood all over the seats. The windows was busted out. The windows of the car. All of the windows of the car was busted out, and it was blood all over the seats. We looking like, we know this is their car, so what happened? So we go downstairs. My mother got scratches on her face. My sister's dad, he got black eyes. He's all beat up. We don't know what happened to them. But this is our reality at the time. The man that put the gun to my mother's head told my mother, told his sister that he put a gun to my mother's head. And this man's sister was called 696 Kids on my mother. Well, the very next day, I guess the story that they told 696 Kids was so crazy that the social worker came out to the house the very next day while we was at school. When we got home from school, got off the school bus, my mother was sitting on the bed. She was crying. She told us that a social worker had came and told her that it's a possibility that she could be taking us based on what was going on in the house. Instead of my mother trying to lie and say everything was okay, my mother threatened the woman, told her, get out, not explaining nothing to you. We can fight. I'm going to beat you up and all this other type of stuff. And the woman told my mother that she was going to come back with the police and that she was going to take us that night. My mother is telling us this, and she's like, listen, I don't know if this woman's going to come back or not, but in the meantime, I want you to go pack your clothes up. So we went upstairs to pack our clothes up. Not much clothes, went and packed our clothes up. That night, social worker came and took us, okay? On the ride, when the social worker came to take us, social worker telling us, listen, what y'all was going through was terrible. Nobody should go through that. We're getting ready to place y'all in a situation where that's never going to happen again. You're not going to be abused in any type of way. You're not going to be neglected in any type of way. You're going to have a whole new reality from here on out. A whole new reality from here on out. Okay? We went into, now I'm getting ready to fast forward. I would love to expound on this story, y'all, but like I said, I'm going with this. Fast forward. While in foster care, I went through everything that I had already went through in my life. I went through it all over again while I was in foster care. I'll do another live to explain what happened, the intricacies of that. I ended up getting adopted into a family that changed my life by showing me how family can stick together through right, wrong, indifferent, having togetherness, celebrating holidays, loving each other, being there for each other, coming to see each other every single day, partying with one another every single day, showing love, sharing food with each other every single day. I had never seen it before. At this time, this exact day that I got there, I was 12, turning 13 years old. My life changed based on a new environment that I was seeing. Okay, fast forward. I got adopted into this family and I moved into a totally new environment. I moved into the suburbs. After everything I ever went through, I moved into the suburbs. Okay? A nice suburb at that. People was living their life. They friends in 10th grade had been their friends. Their friends in 10th grade had been their friends since kindergarten. So their social structure was tight. I was a new person and I really wasn't a part of the social structure that was going on there. Okay? Instead of me being regular, I had to take these last couple years to make my last couple years of school count. Instead of either feeling some type of way about what I had been through in life or even talking about it much or any of that, I had to tighten up and go back to what my grandmother had taught me, which was do the very best that you can at school, which led to me going to different events, doing the best I could at school. And toward the end of me going to school, I was invited to an event where a woman was talking to me, and the woman said to me that, you could be anything that you want to be. You could be anything that you want to be in this world. But in addition to that, you need to understand that it's not as simple as you wanting to be the president and becoming the president. And I didn't understand what she was saying. Hold on, let me check my battery. Okay. I didn't understand what the woman was telling me. When she said, you could want to be the president of the United States, and but that still might not be possible. This woman told me this. I was in high school. I never forget. It changed my life. She told me that there was a such thing as secret societies. I'd never heard of a secret society in my life. But when she told me that there was a such thing as secret societies, and that those secret societies can affect what you ultimately do in your life, it blew my mind. And it started me searching for more knowledge than what I had been told. At this particular time of my life, I had been given a computer. I had access to the internet. I started researching things. I started researching secret societies. I started researching self-help information. I'm wrapping this up real fast because, like I said, I'm going somewhere with this. I learned about the power of meditation. I learned about the pineal gland, how our ancestry is one of understanding that you have faculties inside of your body that can come alive if you know it's there, such as the pineal gland. If you are aware that you have faculties inside of you that could make you capable of understanding all things and doing all things and becoming the greatest version of yourself, then your reality doesn't have to be your reality. You don't have to be upset about what happened in your life. You don't have to be done and victimized by what happened in your life. If you understand that you have tools, you have faculties inside of your body that if you clean them up, you can activate them and use them to become the greatest manifestation of yourself. Okay? Now, knowing this and having been given scholarships to go to college, I went to Ohio State University. When I got to Ohio State University, I was not intending to do a conventional 4 years. I was intended on going on almost like going on an adventure, like seeing what life was really about, because based on what I've been through, based on the recent knowledge that I had gained, and being a doctor, seeing totally different aspects of life, I didn't go to school to put my head down and study. It's not what I went to school for. I got to school, there were great people from all over the country. There were great people. There were big people, tall people, small people, short people, cute people, ugly people, beautiful people. People look better than me. People look worse than me. People smarter than me. People dumber than me. Everybody had made it to college. It was amazing. It was the most amazing thing I had ever seen in one place at one time. I immediately thought to myself, oh yeah, I need to fast forward for a second, because I had something that happened in high school that I need to say. Oh, let me check my camera real quick. Yeah, I need to say this though. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm getting excited and I'm going ahead of myself. Before I went to college, I tried to find out who my father was. Okay, my mother, before she died while we was in foster care, because my mother died while we was in foster care. My mother died in a violent altercation. She had drugs in her system. Our social worker told us that our mother was murdered, and then they changed the story, so we really not clear about how my mother died. But my mother gave me a piece of paper with a man's phone number on it. I called that phone number 7 or 8 times. I used to go. You could call 1-800-collect. Back in the day, I used to do that. Nobody ever answered the phone. Long story short, I knew my dad's number when I knew his name, and I had a computer, and I researched his name, and I found his family. I thought I found his family. My mother at the time didn't know that I did this. My adopted mom didn't know I did this. I got on the phone with him one day after days and days of calling. He finally called my phone one day, and he said he was not my father. When he told me he was not my father, it made me want to rebel. It made me not want to do what my grandmother told me to do, which was be the best that you could be. It made me not want to do what my mother told me to do, which is just, live in the middle of the road, be kind of rough around the edges, and don't ask no questions, stuff like that. It made me want to rebel. It made me want to strike out. It made me want to just not give a care at all. It made me not want to care, to know that in an environment where 16, 17-year-olds is strong. They have bravado. Okay? They have fathers in their lives that teach them how to be a man. I became interested in how to be a man. Now, I need to pay respect to a few uncles who are in my life at this time. People like Uncle Duke, people like Uncle Tremaine, people like Uncle Joseph, people like Uncle Man I had conversations with. There were some people, but I didn't know who my father was, and I wanted to know because I had several friends who had great fathers. So my manhood was what I was really trying to figure out as I entered into college. I wasn't really trying to figure out was I not capable of getting straight A's for the next 4 years. It's not where my heart was at. If I never went through foster care, maybe it would have been. But this is my reality. I was not intent on getting straight A's. I was trying to figure out how to become a man. All these women had contributed to my life. I was trying to figure out how to become a man. Okay? That was my main objective, figuring out how to become a man. How do I hold myself? How do I stand? How do I talk? Do I use a deep voice and be aggressive and intimidating? Or do I use a middle voice or a high voice to really get my point through? These are the types of things that I was trying to figure out at this particular time of my life. Okay? So now, fast forward to when I get to college. When I get to college, I'm meeting new people. I'm hanging out. I'm discovering brotherhood. The brotherhood itself is more important to me than anything I had in years prior. Okay? I had a chip on my shoulder that because I couldn't have a dad, because this man told me that he wasn't my dad. Now I was throwing everything away. I had already started speaking, telling people that I believe that success is a choice. None of these people knew that I was getting ready to unravel. I knew that I was getting ready to unravel. I wrote it down. The reason I decided to unravel was because I needed to know, while I'm telling people that success is a choice, you can be successful. Going into rooms full of people, telling them you can be successful. And one day these kids told me, they was like 17, they was 18, 19, 20 years old. Let me check my camera. They told me, they said, man, you know what? You got on this 5-piece suit. You got on this nice watch. You got on this nice ring. You using perfect English, and I can't relate to you, man. I can't even believe you. I can't believe you've been through none of the stuff that you're talking about. I don't think you have no type of roughness about you. I think that you polished. I think that you're refined. I don't think you're me. I don't think that you are me. You telling me to pull myself up by the bootstraps. I can't tell that you ever pulled yourself up by the bootstraps. You're too far ahead. This is what I was told. And it added to my real objective, which was, number one, become a man. But now you made this prediction to the public that success is a choice. So now, because I don't have a father to sit down and teach me step by step how to be successful, I take it upon myself. I've always been a thinker. Now I have to be able to prove it to myself, or I need to shut up. I need to be able to prove to myself that success is a choice, or I need to shut up. So I took it upon myself to do things that I had long been turned against. I started drinking. I started smoking. I started wearing my clothes sporty, even thuggishly. Okay? I never became dumb. I never became stupid. I became rebellious, and I became anti-culture to the extent of drinking at will, smoking at will, and really exploring my fault. My fault was that I had elements. My fault was that I had elements about myself that I had not brought to the surface and dealt with. Okay? My love for my grandmother, for my mother, for other individuals that I met along the way caused something like alcoholism to ring loud and clear in me. So if people partying and drinking, guess what? I got a lot of partying and drinking in me. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to go live, because there are people who met me different parts along the way of my story, and then they see that, you know, this man think he has a platform, this man think he's a speaker, but when I met this man, he was drinking. When I met this man, he was smoking. When I met this man, he was at a party rapping. When I met this man, he was freestyling. He was telling me he didn't care about nothing. Okay? When I met Cedric, he thought he was cool. So what I'm doing now is I'm explaining how all of it transpired. I started drinking. I started smoking. It didn't happen to me. I did it on purpose. This is all written. It didn't happen to me. Alcohol didn't happen to me. Smoking marijuana didn't happen to me. Smoking cigarettes didn't happen to me. I chose to do them because they were features of people that I love, and that was how they had a good time. So now that was me being who I really thought that I was. I'm somebody who knows how to have a good time. I'm somebody who drinks, smokes, and tells the truth while doing it. I'm someone who drinks and smokes and tells the truth while doing it. This is what I did. Now the whole time that I'm going through this, whether I'm in trouble because I'm getting an open container ticket, or I'm actually going through homelessness now because, okay, Cedric, you drinking, so you got to get out of my house. I don't care what you did in high school. I don't care what you did as a young professional. I'm wrapping this up, guys. I don't care what you did in high school. I don't care what you did as a young professional. You drink it too much, get out on the streets. That became my reality. Me living out on the streets after having achieved my greatest accomplishments, right? But I'm a thinker, and I was thinking, I did this to myself. I dove into this. This didn't happen little bit by little bit. I dove into this. I drank till I couldn't drink anymore. As nasty as it was, I smoked until my throat hurt. Okay? This is what I did. It didn't happen to me. Nobody peer pressured me into doing it. Nobody told me to do it. I did it because I decided to take myself apart to see if I could put myself back together. Because if I could not put myself back together, then I should not be telling people that success is a choice and that you could pull yourself up by the bootstraps. So I unrefined myself. Now this is the good part. I probably got about 10 minutes before my phone died. And we could do a part 2 to this. If people feel that they have comments and they want me to explain other things more deeply, I can definitely do that. Because this is only a small percentage of the real story. Or the actual story. It's all been a real story. Okay? I needed to know, okay, now it's getting deep. Now I'm back living in the streets. Now I'm back living in the streets where I was originally from. I was one neighborhood over from where I was actually born at. Okay? Drinking and smoking in the streets. I got robbed several times. I had a gun put in my face several times. The whole time that I'm living this portion of my life, I'm always telling people, success is a choice. We don't have to be on the bottom. We don't have to kill one another. We don't have to hurt each other. You can be great. You can be hired to do great things. There's talent in you. People look at me in my face telling me, you know what, man? Before I listen to you telling me that you can be somebody, I'd rather get my boys and jump you. So I was jumped. Because I'm telling people that success is a choice, but I'm in the street. I'm not in somebody's corporate building. I'm not on a university campus. I'm not in a nice, safe, clean place. I'm in the trenches telling people that you can be whatever it is that you want to be. This does not have to be your reality. And people decided to sometimes people try to kill me for that. And I didn't run home. I didn't run home because I want to figure out how to be a man. I said I want to figure out how to be a man. I said I wanted to figure out how to stand on my own 2 feet. And that's what I needed to do. So either I was going to become an alcoholic or a drug addict, or I was going to overcome the situation, thus proving my point that success is a choice and that you can be what you want to be if you take everything that you have and fix your flaw. Everybody has flaws. I don't know if I'm too loud or not, but I got to wrap this up. Everybody has flaws. If you graduate college and you get a great job, you end up getting a nice fat salary and you never have to fix your flaws because your bills never catch up, because you never have to have an interpersonal conversation with people that you know, because you've taken the high road. But see, I came to understand that in order to take the high road, you got to understand the low road. Just like them kids told me in that room. I was taking the high road. I'm telling them, listen, let me just come in here without telling you that I'm broken or that I got serious flaws. Let me come in here without telling you that and tell you that you can be successful. They told me, listen, brother, it don't seem like you got no bottom up under you. It don't seem like you ever hit rock bottom. And I'm living on rock bottom. So don't try to tell me I could be successful when you never been where I am. So now let me tell you something. The whole time that I either drank or smoked, I knew that it was unacceptable, that it was dirty, that it was nasty, and that it needed to be overcame in me. It needed to be overcame in me. Now, it was hard. It was tough. It was not easy. I needed spirituality. I needed rehabilitation. I had to call my mom and tell my mom, listen, Mom, what you don't know is that I'm out here drinking like crazy. I had to tell her that. I had to call a couple of my uncles and say, you know what? What you don't know is that I'm out here drinking and smoking like crazy. I did this. Now, I'm telling the people that I love that I'm going through it because I want the people that I love to hold me accountable for being who I said that I am. Because if I can be who I said that I am, then I can become a man. Which brings me back to my original premise. When you say, where are our leaders at? Our leaders can only be people who have identified their flaws, fought their flaws, overcame their flaws, and then represent themselves the best version that they can possibly be. And that's what I'm doing today. That's what I'm doing today. So now I understand for myself, and I want the world to know now that not only am I who I say I am, but success is a choice. But we got to have conversations. We can't have those conversations if you don't think that there's nobody out there that's trying to overcome their flaws. You can't have this conversation if you don't think there's nobody out there that is willing to be honest with themselves and then is willing to be honest with their public. At this time, I've been sober for years. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't party inappropriately. And I don't condone none of it. And I know for a fact that it's not impossible to bring yourself back. It's not impossible. It takes hard work. But now that I'm back, I have to be clear. Everybody's going through this. Everybody's going through this. Everybody has a flaw, and 98% of people is not confronting that flaw and overcoming that flaw. That's where I want to start this conversation at. So if you're in here and you know me and you see me with a backdrop and I'm speaking to the community, I'm speaking from a standpoint of having overcome my flaw. I didn't just have a beer yesterday. I didn't have shots of liquor earlier today, smoke weed earlier today, cigarettes earlier today, and then get on live and tell you that I'm something that I'm not. That's not what happened. Years of work have gone into this. I don't tell Facebook everything because I think that the internet is taking our it's taking our wisdom and it's owning it. And like if Facebook gets deleted, then my wisdom gets deleted. So I'm interested in living a real life where I'm a real stand-up man that if you met in real life, you would be motivated and you will be compelled to be a better version of yourself because I've been there, done that. Not because it appears that on social media I'm doing excellent. Okay, so as you will see me saying in the future, I have a real testimony to give. I have a real story to tell. There are 500,000 kids in foster care. It stands to reason all of them is about to go through this series of events that I just went through. 500,000. The reason I'm focusing on foster care is because when you call a corporation, when you call an organization, they say, okay, you're a speaker. Who you want to speak to? You tell them you want to speak to everybody. They tell you can't speak to everybody. So I had to pick a sector. So the sector that I'm picking is child welfare. It's 500,000 foster kids. All of them need to hear that you can do it. You can overcome your flaw. First of all, you have flaws. You're not perfect. Be real with yourself. Now do the work of overcoming your flaws. It's going to make you vulnerable. When you overcome your flaws, it's going to make you vulnerable. It's going to make you dirty. It's going to make you sick. It might make you homeless. It's going to get you beat up. It might get you shot. It might get you robbed. It might get you put in jail. It might get people writing you off. It might get people thinking that you're not who you say that you are or who you said that you were. But at the end of the day, it's the only way to become an adult. So thank you for hearing me out today, y'all. Most people who tuned in, they decided to stay with me for this journey. If you know me in real life, you know that I could keep going, but I got to put my children to sleep. I love my children. I love my wife. If you haven't talked to me in a long time, I'm married with children now. I'm married with 3 children. And as I teach them, I want them to listen to me. And that's another thing. I had kids on purpose because I wanted somebody's calling me. I had children on purpose because I wanted somebody to listen to me. So now, as my children is listening to me, and hopefully my wife is listening to me also, I want them to do that knowing that I overcame my flaw. Going forward, when I say I am a leader in the community, I mean that. You don't have to like everything that I post, but I want you to know, you met me at some point along my life along the way. I want you to know Cedric was keeping it real then. Cedric is keeping it real now. I can back that man. Not that boy, not that kid, not that foster child, that man. I can back that man. All right? Peace and love.